Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Shea Dixon for our second portal pod of the offseason. Shea, how are you doing?
We have to space these out because so much happens. Every day is something. The portal opened on December the 9th. Today is December 20th. So 11, 12 days. They've added 10 prospects. Call it one a day. And by the time you're listening to this, LSU fans, there could be a couple of more additions. We'll touch on that here in a moment, or here in a bit. But this is why everyone's been on the Bengal Tiger right now. It's only $1. You get everything on On3. You can read from Pete Nakos to Wilt Fong, Chad Simmons, all the national guys, every team site. But for LSU fans, most importantly, everything we're doing on the Bengal Tiger. We've had scoop nonstop on the visitors who we felt like they were going to land. And they are red hot, Matty B. As Brian Kelly said they would be. I said this week that Frank Wilson to recruiting is what Austin Thomas is to kind of a GM in the NIL world. Now with college sports, which was kind of always viewed as a front office thing for NFL teams, but managing a roster, NIL, the portal, they seem to be doing it right now. As Brian Kelly said, only two of the guys who left, Matty B, they didn't feel they were kind of surprised by, but still understood. Everybody else was for playing time. And as we said all along, everyone they've added so far is someone who's got starts under their belt in the SEC, in the ACC, in the Big Ten. These are guys coming in to start or to compete to start and be in a rotation. We'll run through all that, but first, game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets, guys, with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code ON3, ON3, $20 off your first purchase. If you're watching on YouTube, you see it right there. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. It's the holidays. Get on there. Get out and do something. There's plenty of tickets. If you need to get someone a gift for a game in the future, a concert in the future, an event in the future, anything, a play, you're a little late on the Christmas side. Not really in the modern era. You're not. You're still 5 days out. You can do something the day before.
Yeah.
Game Time can save you there. Great tickets all over the place. And obviously, LSU, Baylor, Texas Bowl, January 31st, 2:30. So keep an eye on Game Time for those. Tickets are available now. They'll continue to drop. You've got the lowest price guarantee. You've got game ticket coverage. There is no reason not to be with Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ON3, ON3, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Matty B, what time is it? Game time. All right.
I wanted to Sugar Bowl. Sugar Bowl is also in New Orleans.
It's going to be a pretty penny for you unless you're a diehard, diehard fan of the two teams.
I went on the Game Time site and I saw Sugar Bowl and I was like, "That's right, Sugar Bowl."
There you go. Well, it'll drop towards Game Time if you're in New Orleans or Louisiana and just want to go check out a playoff game. I wanted to do an exercise to catch fans up on what's happened. 10 transfers, whatever you call them, commit, signees, have been added so far. I'll talk about some more that by the time you're listening to this might have been added, but I'm going to go through them. And this is not in an order of when they committed. It's just positions. And I want your immediate reaction to what they mean for the team next year.
Okay.
I think that is what fans care about. Okay. Yeah. What in the past, the portal's been a mixture, right, Matty B, of guys who started, guys who were understood as backups, guys who have not ever played and transferred out. I don't get the sense that with these 10, that's the case. I think that all of them are about to be competing to play. So let's start from the top. Garrett Nussmeier announces he's coming back. He's got one final year. I told the story of, remember the last Texas Bowl when John Trey Kirkland, the DB receiver, played quarterback. They got crushed by Kansas State. It didn't matter. And the reason they didn't have a quarterback, now John Trey had the night of his life. It was basically like LSU won, even though they didn't.
Yeah.
Your ultimate Tiger. Shout out John Trey. But Garrett Nussmeier took a red shirt, and that was before bowls counted against your eligibility, or when they did count against the player's eligibility. Had he played in that bowl game, his last game at LSU would be this bowl game. Instead, he's playing in this Texas Bowl, and he's got another year. They go out and not just get a backup. Like Michael Van Buren out of state started 10 games as a true freshman last year, Matty B, double-digit games, and did so because Blake Shapen, who came from Baylor as a transfer, got hurt. Now, year one, quarterback, but he can run it, and he gives you a backup that, I don't know, you tell me, is it some packages? Is it Do you just feel good that if Nuss went out for a series or two, you're not just punting it and understanding we're handing it off and punting it and avoiding any risk that this might go south on us? So Michael Van Buren, Mississippi State starter, enters the portal, visits LSU. He's going to LSU now. What is his role next year behind Garrett Nussmeier?
Yeah, in 2025, he'll be pushing Garrett Nussmeier in terms of he's better than AJ Swan ever was. He's better than Ricky Collins was. I think he is a significant step up as a backup quarterback and as a player that can come in and play for a couple drives. If Nussmeier, like we saw in the Oklahoma game, misses a few drives there, if he misses a quarter, if he misses a game, I think Michael Van Buren has proven as a freshman, if you watch his tape against Georgia, against Ole Miss, I mean, he's making high-level throws, and Mississippi State was the worst team in the SEC this past year. Like, he did not have an abundance of weapons around him to make plays. He was making plays with his legs, extending plays. So I think in the immediate term, obviously long term, I think this is a great pickup for, future years. But just in 2025, you have now a capable backup for Garrett Nussmeier and probably what's going to end up being one of the best backup quarterbacks in the SEC.
Yeah, and could be the heir apparent, right, to Nuss, or we'll see what happens from there. If it's Colin Hurley who remains on roster, if it's a portal guy, if it's a signee, we don't know. But how quickly we moved on from assuming it was the Bryce Underwood era to, hey, look, now they've got this backup quarterback that can give them a little something next year as well, and we'll see where it goes from there. I like the addition a lot. That was one that was okay. That was a better transfer quarterback than I thought you'd be able to go get, convince to come in.
Definitely.
They don't need really any running backs. Haven't pursued him. Receiver was big though. Matty B. I'll go in order here. Of whom they've landed. Obviously, C.J. Daniels is transferred out. He's gone to Miami. Shelton Sampson left. Kyron Lacey's gone to the draft. Mason Taylor's gone to the draft as a tight end. Aaron Anderson was one of your top 4 pass catchers as the only one who's coming back, right? So Landon Ibieta entered the portal. You need to get to double-digit receivers. So far they've added 3. We said that would be the minimum they would add. Nick Anderson out of OU, Destin Hill out of FSU, who's a unique case, and then Barry Brown out of Kentucky. Brown was first. You did a great in-depth analysis. Explain to fans why Brown is more than just a receiver, because I think that's the story for him.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he is, I think, first of all, the 5 touchdowns as a kick returner is exceptional, which I know they're not hurting at kick returner right now with Xavion and Aaron.
That's the most ever in the SEC, tied for the most.
That is a ridiculous number of kickoff returns for touchdowns. And so with that, you see the top end speed. With that, you see the track speed that he has, where he is one of the fastest verified times, like in the receiver room right now. And that's a room with obviously tons of speed when you include Chris Hilton and Jelani Watkins and so on and so forth. So Barry and Brown, I think the top end speed, you pair that with a Hilton, you pair that with even an Aaron Anderson and Watkins and so on, you get to where you need to be as a receiving core in terms of speed, in terms of playmaking. So I think Barry and Brown, he's had 3 different quarterbacks the last 3 years. I think he's been productive with all 3 of them. He definitely can do both the long ball and the short stuff that we've seen like a Xavier Thomas do last year. He can fill both of those roles. So I look at him as a flexible piece for this offense that can help them with that top end speed.
And he does, as you pointed out in your breakdown, it's sweeps. It's using him out of the backfield. It's on returns. And then a traditional receiver, I should note too, he's 6'1". So it's not like he's a 5'8" gadget player. This is a guy who's got some size and a lot of starts at Kentucky and was excellent when Will Levis was their quarterback. And then this past year, they didn't have great quarterback play and they struggled. So with Garrett Nussmeier, I think he's dynamic. One that everybody seemed to want, LSU fans wise, was Nick Anderson. Matty B, this is a kid a couple years ago who tore college football apart for OU. They played quarterback roulette this year while like 9 of their receivers, including Anderson, were banged up. Yes. But he was a very highly touted player coming out of Texas. It came down to A&M in Texas. I thought that Texas A&M, I thought Texas A&M and LSU would split Micah Hudson and Nick Anderson, and they do. Micah Hudson from Tech is going to A&M, Nick Anderson to LSU. your thoughts on Nick Anderson, who is healthy again, but once more 6'3.5". He's ranked as a top 5 portal receiver. And the thought is, as Charles Power said, if he can regain what he had in the year prior, in years past, and high school, then he's going to be excellent.
Yeah, so that's the only question mark we have at this point, is that he was hurt last year, and it wasn't a knee, it was a quadricep injury. From everything I read, was that it kept lingering, and he just wasn't
Everybody
able to play.
gets hurt.
Yeah, so
That's
that
the
is
other
the only
thing.
thing, is that he did not play last year, so he wasn't able to build off that incredible 2023 season where 800 yards on only 38 catches, 10 touchdowns. I mean, it's just an incredible number of touchdowns to receptions ratio there. But yeah, he can win over the top. He can make contested catches. I think the route running is phenomenal. He's like a technically just really sound receiver. You watch him, and he's the wide receiver one that LSU needed. Like I like a lot of players in this wide receiver room, but they still needed that guy that was like, not just a big play guy, but he can get you the intermediates. I think his intermediate stats were crazy this past year at Oklahoma. I don't have them in front of me. They're in my story. But, I mean, he's just super reliable, gets open, finds space, and just really smart. So this is that guy that, I'm not saying he's going to catch 70 balls, but when he does catch them, you feel it, and he's a really, really good receiver.
And he's coming out of Katy too in high school, which has been facing good competition,
Yeah.
well coached from then to OU and now to LSU. So there is no competition jump here. He knows what he's up against. You got that 1-2 punch. Let me ask you quickly, presuming everyone's healthy, is that a better is Kyron Lacy, CJ Daniels, and Aaron Anderson, and let's just say Xavier Thomas? Would you prefer that, or would you prefer Nick Anderson, Barian Brown, Aaron Anderson, Xavier Thomas?
I was going to say Anderson and Xavier are still here.
Yeah, so I'm giving you the grouping that was, really kind of the usage of
Well,
last year.
yeah, so I'm
You're
taking
replacing
Anderson
Lacy and Daniels with Brown
and
and Nick Anderson.
yes, correct. I like Anderson and Brown significantly more. I was always hesitant on Kyron Lacy, just because maybe the hands and just in general. I wasn't sure. I was hopeful that he would take that leap. He didn't really end up doing it. Nick Anderson's 2023 season, I would argue, is better than any Kyron Lacy season, including this past one, especially considering the quarterback situation that he was faced with. 2023 he had Gabriel. So yeah,
Correct.
and when he has a quarterback, like I think we've seen it, and then when he's healthy, I think he is better than Kyron Lacy is. But Barian Brown is that playmaker type that just CJ Daniels was very reliable. We raved about him, but they just didn't have that speed. They didn't have the playmaking to really punish defenses on the perimeter, and Brown gives you that. So I'll take them as a 1-2 punch. Lacy and Daniels combined for 1,300 yards this year. It's a very good number. I've said it before, the standard at LSU is to be elite at receiver. And I think that they are getting back to, if not, they are back to that standard now.
Yeah, Barian Brown and CJ Daniels is apples to oranges. It's very different types of
Completely
players.
different.
But
Yes.
yeah, we'll see. And look, let me give Lacy his flowers. He came in from UL. He stepped up. His hands got better over time. He was a wide receiver one that took over in games. In other games, he didn't get the ball until late. But he gets to go pro now. So congrats. Hopefully he's a high draft pick and he's your next Malik and Brian Thomas out there tearing it up immediately as rookies. So kudos to Kyron Lacy, former basketball player who got a football scholarship to UL and made the most of it at LSU. Destin Hill's the third one. I'll take this. He came out of Carr, and Bryce Brown, the head coach, and everyone in New Orleans thought this is one of the best players to come out of Carr in a while at receiver, including Speedy Noyle and others. He's above 6 foot. He's above 200 pounds. People were talking Jamar Chase. He then had to go to Florida State, sat 2 years. He had some off the field stuff. It speaks to me, though, that Mike Norvell stuck with him through 2 years. The second he was on the team, he started. Mm-hmm. And that was FSU's 12-0 season when they got, completely screwed and didn't get into the playoffs because their quarterback got hurt. Destin Hill comes home now. He's coming off an injury, but look, guys injured have knee injuries all the time. And we saw Zay Alexander have one in the middle of last season. He came back 2 games in when was LSU's best corner again. The expectation is he'll be healthy. I'll just say this. I am going to project that Destin Hill does some big things at LSU. If you want to say, well, I wish we would have chased other guys, you got Nick Anderson and Barry and Brown. Like, what other guys are you going to keep chasing? And then I will add, you got to carry double digit. If Destin Hill, if you want to consider him one of your like 9, 10, 11, 12 guys, I'll wipe the floor with that. That's easy money right there.
Yeah.
So I really, really like the Destin Hill edition,
Well,
despite the fact that the football hasn't been played in recent years.
correct. And to your point, it's like they still have the returning talent of Kyle Parker and Kylan Billio and
Sure.
Jelani Watkins and Xavier Thomas. Like they did not need to go headhunt another Barry and Brown level guy. And this Destin Hill is, I think it's very clear, a high upside, kind of pretty low. Like you're not concerned with like, oh, if he doesn't pan out, it's not like a giant blow to your offense. Like you're not putting all your eggs in that basket per se. So I feel good about the pickup. Like you said, I think the upside is there, and you just need to get him healthy and get him play. I think it's a long-term thing because he still has 3 years of eligibility left.
That's correct.
Coming out of and he was a 2021
so
recruiting cycle. So
look,
an
I'm
older player, 3 years of eligibility, I'll take it.
And he was a dog in high school at a really good Edna Carr program. The last one right now in offense, and by the time you're listening to this, that could change. Bauer, Sharp, tight end, OU. Talk about quarterback roulette. They did it. They weren't good. Every receiver, including one we just spoke of, was injured at some point in the year. And Bauer, their tight end, leads the team in receptions and catches, and without even gaudy numbers. So it speaks to kind of where OU was. LSU needs 2 portal tight ends. They're going to continue to go for a second one, but I think this one kind of, Matty B, is self-explanatory. You got Trades Green, but he's a pass catcher. You got JD LaFleur, who can do both, and you're high on Charles Powers is high on On3 National Director of Scouting and Rankings. He's a 4-star. He's a top 300 player, but he's a true freshman. So what can you do to bring guys in? Bauer Sharp, he's got a year left. I think this makes perfect sense as someone who can help out in line, but can also be a guy who can go out and catch passes.
Yeah, he was more athletic than just going into it to watching the film was like, okay, I expected him to be this like bulkier dude that could block a little bit more, but he is a really good athlete. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they use him because I think it allows Trades Green to, if they want to play him in the slot, if they want to utilize him, even if they're not going to call him a receiver, if they want to utilize him more in the slot, like Sharp gives you that ability there. LaFleur gives you that ability there. I don't know if they're going to look at any more tight ends physically to fill like a Mac Markway role or anything like that. But Sharp is capable of doing both.
They will take another tight end.
Okay, yeah. So
that's an inline guy.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense to me because Sharp can block, but I think he's just such a good athlete. I would like him. Like there were times Oklahoma was throwing it to him like on little like slips and out of the backfield type stuff. It was really impressive. So I think he's a good receiver. And I do think he, kind of fills the tight end spot. They honestly just need guys that can make plays, and Sharp can make plays.
On defense, this one was a no-brainer. Corey Raymond gets Jakeem Jackson out of Florida. This was during his 2 years at Florida before he returned to LSU as the secondary coach. He recruited Jackson. Jackson was a 3-star when he offered and committed him. Jackson finishes as the number 3 corner on 3. Played immediately for Corey. Then Corey comes here to coach. Last year, he started the first 2 games for Florida, got banged up, had the opportunity to come back, but said, hey, I'm going to take a red shirt instead. It's what Wes Weeks did this year. Jakeem's younger, obviously. He immediately hits the portal, makes one visit. It's LSU. This is a day 1 starter for me in a cornerback room that needed it.
Exactly.
DJ Pickett, Jakeem Jackson, give him to me.
Yeah. He is, I think, go back and watch his freshman tape. He was on the field a good amount, not a ton, but he was on the field a good amount on that Florida team 2 years ago, thrown into the fire, thrown into some tough situations. And I think Corey Raymond showed right away that he was, he believes in him. He knows what he's getting from Jakeem Jackson. So you get that. And then last year, 2 games. The first was Miami, where I would argue Florida's defense as a whole was just completely outmanned and completely just caught off guard by what Cam Ward did to them. So that game was tough to evaluate. And then, plays one more game against Samford where he was good and then got hurt. So I think Raymond is working with kind of still a blank canvas here, a guy who will have 3 years of eligibility, and he knows what he's getting. Like he knows better than me, anybody else, than what he's getting in Jakeem Jackson, and Corey Raymond has shown that he can evaluate talent. So I like the pickup.
I think Ashton Stamps has the opportunity to move to nickel. Then you can bring along PJ Woodland, Michael Turner, these young guys that also kind of got thrown into the fire, certainly Woodland, but it buys them time. And DJ Pickett, the number one corner in the country, is coming in. Aiden Anding, the number one in Louisiana. So that room is getting better in a big way. I would say let's stick with Florida, but shift really quickly. A guy who they think can play corner, nickel, or safety. And I don't mean that in a way of like Sage Ryan, where like you just keep having to move him to like make up for deficiencies. At Virginia Tech, he was doing that in practice. He was cross-training, knowing, hey, if someone gets injured, I'm going to play somewhere else. But his reps all came at corner. That's where he was. He played in 30-plus games as a starter. But Mansour Delani comes as a commitment. I'll give you this.
Is that how you say his name? I was
Mansour
so
Delani.
Mansour Delani. Okay.
I asked a source I trust.
Good.
Before the podcast, of the 10 guys they've got in who they like the most, and very quickly they said Delani.
I like that.
Thoughts?
Yeah,
Thoughts.
First of all, LSU's biggest concern in the secondary last year was tackling, right?
He can do that.
He can.
You got his numbers in front of you. It's like 170 something.
It's incredible. Yeah, he just you watch the tape I included in my analysis of him. He hits people. He is a very, very good tackler. That is it. Just the eye test. You look at PFF grades. You look at the nut tackle. Just the sheer number of tackles. Delaney can tackle people out of as a safety, and I think that's huge. So that's the first thing. That's why I agree with you in terms of he can play safety. He can play star. He can play nickel. He can play boundary corner where he was also very effective. So I think he checks a lot of boxes, and he also gives you that experience factor, which they need as well when you're replacing a Sage Ryan and a Major Burns. So I like Delaney quite a bit. I think this was a huge need for them to check off in the portal because he is so versatile and he can do either anywhere. He played a lot of box when he wasn't at corner, he was playing in the box. He was making tackles. He was sticking his nose into plays. And I think the tackling aspect and the run defense aspect is something that we've seen kind of consistently with their defensive additions to this point, especially when you get to the defensive ends that they've added as well. But Delaney checks that box.
Again, one person named him number one. So I'm intrigued to see more because he could be a very big time player for LSU next year as they repatch that secondary. I will say this guy's safety, they will address. Trust me, not everyone has entered the portal yet. So we'll keep an eye on that one. I know people are asking about safety. He can play it, but they have their eyes on others who are still going to enter. I'll give you these two at once because you talked about him. Jack Pyburn out of Florida, 6'4", 260. Jamari Butler out of Nebraska, 6'5", 260. Both these guys are listed as edge guys. Butler may be a little bit more of your kind of pass rush type. Pyburn more of a hold up against the run. But with Braden Swinson and Savion Jones both gone, you needed to add more guys like this. We'll talk about another big one here in a moment. But these two make perfect sense to me. Like, yes, Gabe Relaford's coming. Yes, you want to develop Dylan Carpenter, a Louisiana 4-star. But those guys, especially Relaford's young, is true freshman. These guys have double-digit starts, SEC and Big Ten experience.
Exactly. Butler is, like you said, the pass rusher of the two. I think he actually held up pretty well against the run as well for Nebraska. But he shows those flashes of like what Swinson showed at Oregon. Now the difference is Butler is going into his last year. He is older than what Swinson was. So he's a little bit more of a finished product. And I'm not saying he's going to be Braden Swinson, but he has those pass rushing flashes where despite him only having 2 sacks this past year, and he had, I believe, 5.5 the year before, he had a good amount of pressures. I want to say he had close to 20 pressures on the season. So that's a number that Jamari Butler brings to LSU, and immediately as a pass rusher should be able to develop under Kevin Peoples. And then Jack Pyburn, I mean, if there's a tougher player in the country,
good run stopper.
This dude, and he's not just a run stopper in his own space. Like there's run stoppers in your space as a defensive end. Be like, all right, play's coming to me. Boom, make a play. Awesome. He will go like across the field, chase down somebody and go make a tackle and stop it at like 2 or 3 yards. Like he is just everywhere. And that is a defense that struggled against the run this past year at times. I think Pyburn is like a perfect fit for what just the needs of this defense.
I asked a source who said that both could put their hand in the dirt. Obviously, as you mentioned, Jamari Butler, a little bit more of the pass rush, so he could put his hand down a little bit more. Pyburn can stand up if he feels the need, but these guys are very talented. Look, Pyburn didn't even start till after the bye week, and he finished second the team in tackles on Florida for a defense that got really better as the season went on. I mean, they clamped LSU down there in Gainesville.
Yeah, that's a good team.
Everyone kind of pointed to him as a reason that they kind of got a spark, almost in a West Weeks way. It was like once he got on the field, or Whit Weeks, I'm sorry, that things became like different for the defense. They have not offered a linebacker. I've asked sources. It doesn't appear that they're pushing for any. So they feel good about what they've got. We'll see what Harold Perkins does, obviously. The other addition right now publicly is a punter, Grant Chadwick, Middle Tennessee State freshman. Dynamic. Go look up his highlights. He was a Ray Guy Award watch list. He was
as a freshman,
All Conference USA, right? Honorable mention as a true freshman, and had some massive punts. And he told me, I was swapping texts with him, and it's funny. We know about all these huge like 5 stars that are visiting places, and like he listed off the who's who of college teams that he had like talked to and visited, and I was like, nobody knows what these kickers and punters are doing. They're keeping that on the real lowdown. But Maddie B, this isn't to me a competition. Chadwick's your punter next year.
Yes, and he has the power that they just frankly did not have this year. Like there were way too many punts from LSU that went like 30, 35 yards. I was blown away by how like it changed some games that they were not able to change the field position. And so I thought this was a huge need for them. And if you go look at Chadwick's stats, he had 20, I believe it was 20 punts down. No, let me get the number right. I don't want to say the wrong number, but he had significantly more punts down inside the 20 than Peyton Todd did this past year.
And
like
he can boom it.
Yeah, he can do both here, and that is a huge thing because, like I said, I thought the field position battle, LSU was just playing catch up constantly, and it doesn't help when we've talked about the offense and its struggles and whatnot, but like the field position battle is significant, and this guy is able to do it. 13 punts of 50 or more yards, and 21 downed inside the 20. I thought I had that stat wrong on top of my head, but that's what it says online. So 21. Peyton Todd had 5.
Yeah, Grant Chadwick coming out of Tullahoma. I apologize for either mispronunciation. Tullahoma, Tennessee. Shout out to everybody there who's listening right now. You got a good one. He's headed to LSU. Yes. Maddie, be a quick ad read before we get out of here because I want to mention a few guys that they're going to add that I think.
Yes.
But My Perfect Franchise, you know it, Andy Luedecke. We rock with him every week on the podcasts. The name is in itself. He's a franchise owner. He's been a franchise consultant now for decades. He's helped so many people find franchises that fit their skill sets, how much money you might have, financial requirement wise, time, which is always important, whether you have it or you don't, and much more. If it's a side hustle, if it's a new job, you've got a current job that is a franchise that you're looking to build on, and you've got questions about trying to diversify or your portfolio, maybe just build some more wealth, maybe pass something on to your kids or whomever. Andy's here to help. And for a couple of years now, he's done this. If you reach out, his number is 404-973-9901. I haven't memorized it at this point. I only know like 3 numbers nowadays, and he's one of them. 404-973-9901 or Andy, A-N-D-Y, at myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy, A-N-D-Y, at myperfectfranchise.net. It's 100% free to call him, get his services, to ask questions about business ownership in whatever realm it might be. Many, many, many Bengal Tigers subscribers have reached out, never paid a dime for it. So hit up Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. 404-973-9901 is his number, and tell him we called you, and it'll be free to chat and get things going. Maddie B, quickly before we get out of here, by the time you're listening to this, they could have added more prospects. They're at 10 when we're doing this on Friday, December 20th at 1 o'clock. I would not be surprised if Virginia Tech's Braylon Moore, an offensive lineman, or Texas D lineman Sadir Mitchell was in by the time you're listening to this podcast. If not, soon thereafter, both guys visited campus. Both guys haven't visited anywhere else. The writing's kind of on the wall. I've got my picks in on both, but more from Virginia Tech, tons of starts at center. He would be able to come in and move DJ Chester over to the guard spot. DJ Chester was your freshman who started at center all year. There were hiccups that were expected, but now you can say you move him to guard, competes there, and you've got a proven center. That would be massive. And I do believe they're the team to beat. Sadir Mitchell is your typical nose tackle. He was at Texas. Bo Davis recruited him to Texas. He coached him at Texas. And then this past year, he took a red shirt and is now on his way out and immediately made one visit. And it sounds like he's going to make a decision soon. The only visit was to LSU and Bo Davis. So Corey Raymond, Bo Davis are all kind of working these old connections from old schools. You get another nose tackle. We know Guillory's coming back. We saw what Bro and others did this year. To me, I think that, yes, maybe they do add another D lineman on the interior along the way, but that position continues to get better for me.
Yeah, exactly. McKinley, Bro, Guillory back. I think it was
obviously Don McKinley. He'll probably start.
Yeah, but I think in terms of a nose tackle, Guillory's capable, but I think this is what they needed. They needed Mitchell. They needed a guy like this that can come in and just hold down the fort, like right in the middle of the things. And that's kind of what they lacked at times. That's why it was like a lot of Paris Shan, JVR Suggs, these guys that aren't real nose guys. They're kind of like 3 techs and stuff that had to move around a bit. So you wanted to get a little bit more traditional, I guess, in that sense. And so I'm happy with this pickup. I'm excited to see what this defensive tackle room looks like next year. And
this TBD pickup, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
TBD.
Yeah.
TBD. We'll see.
TBD.
We'll see. Maybe I'll hold this pod until it's done.
No. Roll it. And my picks are in on both Braylon Moore at Virginia Tech, who would be a center, and then Sadir Mitchell, who would be a DT, a nose tackle. Exactly. Before we get out of here, I did just post some tidbits. They want, beyond Braylon Moore, they hosted an offensive lineman this week in Josh Thompson out of Northwestern. They're hosting another today from the West Coast. I do feel that they're going to come away with one more O-lineman, Matty B. They kind of want to tackle, but we'll see how it goes. Again, you've got Weston Davis, Tyree Adams. We saw Mabanga play. Curious Kearns coming in as a guy that Brian Kelly said could start right away. There's others, obviously, but Bordalongo and kind of the list goes on. If they add another, though, I think they'd be in really great shape. It would remind me of what they did when Will Campbell and them started as true freshmen. They added Miles Frazier and one more. Miles Frazier ends up being a 3-year starter.
They added Miles Frazier and Tremont Shorts.
Yes, there you go. Last time we took forever to get it, and this time we got it.
We got it.
And we'll leave you with this tidbit. Stay tuned. This weekend, Patrick Payton, Florida State's D-end, has entered the portal 2 years ago during that national championship. I keep making that mistake. That 12-0 run that they got out into the playoffs, not allowed to be in it. He was phenomenal. He comes out this year as a top pick on draft boards. Didn't have the same type of year. Now, still, he's got it in him. There's a thought that he's highly regarded as maybe the best edge D-end that's out there. He would be the Savion Jones replacement. Right now, Matty B's only got one visit scheduled. It's LSU. It's this weekend. Don't be shocked if we hear that one go LSU's way. And boy, would that feel like some icing on top of the cake of what you're doing at edge and D-end. Yeah.
All I was going to say was he was not the only Florida State player whose season did not go the way it wanted to.
No doubt.
That was a tough year. But
I remember you don't.
I'm sorry. I remember 2 years ago.
I was just saying you don't lose every single game all year without just like one player having a bad.
It's like I remember him 2 years ago. I mean, vividly. And I remember him. I think it was in the LSU game being tough to block. And so it's
Jared Verse.
Yeah, him and Jared Verse were terrifying off the edge. So definitely that would be a big addition as well. So to further shore up the defensive end room. And I did a story today on the 2024 class. And I think I know, everything's portal right now, but I think their ability the retention they've had so far, and we'll see, maybe if another couple players enter the portal, I have no idea. But at this point, they've only had 3 enter the portal right now with Atkins, Causey, and Johnson, I believe, to this point. And so, I mean, the retention ability of that 2024 class, I think coming off of the disappointment of what the 2023 class has been a little bit, like the 2024 class looks like like it is setting up to have impact, even if they're not
Yes.
starters across the board. And we've talked about the starters, with the Durham, McKinley,
Devon
Rose,
Keys and kids like that.
Keys, Relaford, so on and so forth. But like even Woodland,
McKinley, yeah.
like Spears, like you can go down the list, and I think there's players that are waiting to break out. I didn't even say traded as Green, but like there's players waiting to
Weston
break out as
Davis.
well. Yeah, so that is a huge thing. I did want to also mention that the portal is going to be huge for this team getting to that top end level, but them being able to fill in gaps also with this 2024 class, I think is a storyline for this offseason that has not been talked about enough.
You heard it there, Matty B. I totally agree. It's the balancing of the portal with development, and that's what you're trying to do here. $1 to get all the Bengal Tiger stuff. We'll have Scoop all weekend. I expect them to, here you go, another little tidbit, to hit at least 15 additions. It's not going to stop. My final tidbit before we get out, $1, Matty B. Come help us out here. We're trying to beat out all these other teams. There's portal action, and then there's memberships and family action. We want the Bengal Tiger to be beating out these other SEC teams in terms of membership and who's part of the fam. So $1, give a holiday gift. It's a good one. Watch for bowl games, including playoffs. As soon as teams are knocked out, guys are going to enter. Won't be surprised if at least 2 guys end up at LSU that are soon to play bowl games or playoffs or whatever it might be. That's what I'll say right now. So stay tuned. It will be getting fun.
What a tease. What a tease.
No,
All right.
I thought you were about to be like the board and just start guessing. No, we're not doing that.
Well, if y'all are going to start guessing, get on the message board. Come join us on the Bengal Tiger On3. We have a great community over there. It's a lot of fun. So
Yes.
keep up with everything going on. I think we probably won't do another one till after the holidays, after Christmas. So
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see how busy it gets.
we'll see.
Portal
We'll see
action.
what happens. But thank you all for joining us. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you have not already. I hope everybody has a safe and happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. And we will be back later on to do our third Portal podcast as well.
And we'll have some previews for the bowl game matchup with Baylor, who's playing, everything like that. So hope everyone enjoys their time away or get some time off and spend it doing whatever you want to do around the holidays.
Yep. So thank you all for joining us. We will talk to y'all later.